now has just begun, and it's only for a moment. Said it's only for a moment, yeah. The now has just begun. The now has just begun, and it's only for a moment. Said it's only for yeah. Oh. Wagwan, everybody said what to? It's your brother from another motherland, Mr. Mikel. The world changer, here for another episode of Too High to Go Hell. Too High to Go Hell is a creative portal, a spiritual health conversation for the millennial generation. This conversation is coming at you in the form of live podcasts like the one you're listening to now, which you can also listen back to on Apple, Spotify or Anchor. It also comes in the form of music. There's an album on the way called Too High to Go Hell, and literature. There's a book on the way called Too High to Go Hell. We also, in this spiritual health conversation, are creating experiences. Right now, you lot have been hearing me talk about Chezo Rojo, which is Swahili for dancing in spirit. We are about to start doing Chezo Rojo healing workshops to help people again understand how to gather their own tools for spiritual health. Blessings and love to everyone tuned in now, later, in the future, in the past. However you're tuned in right now, big up on yourself. This live is led by the oath, heaven is my right and heaven is my responsibility. Okay? That's the oath that we have right here tagged in the comment section. Yes? Heaven is my right and heaven is my responsibility. That is the leading factor of this live. Because when we're talking about spiritual health, when we're saying how do we become spiritually healthy, the first thing we have to do when talking about spiritual health, we have to be able to talk from a place of our own personal responsibility. Why? Because every man, every woman's spiritual journey is absolutely their own to craft. It's their own to pilot. It's their own to take and walk that path. So when we're talking about spirituality, we can't talk about collective consciousness and spirituality until we talk about personal responsibility. Okay? Because that's what spirituality is. Now let me break down spirituality for all the men, women and children listening. Spirituality can be broken down like this. Your energetic operations, okay? I'm gonna break it down like this. Spirit means your breath, that which you breathe out. Go look at the origins of the word spirit. It means breath. Yes, that which emits from you, the life force that's running through you. Okay? The air you pull in and the air you push out, that is your spirit. Anything that emits from something is known as an energy. Okay? So when you're talking about energy, when you're talking about spirit, you are talking about the same thing. And when you use the word spirituality, what you are actually saying you're talking about is your energetic operations. How are you operating in your energy? What do I mean by energetic operations? I'm talking about the way in which you live your life, the thoughts that you have, the intentions that you interact with, yes, the places and people you interact with, the way you eat your food, the way you go to work, how you serve people, all of that is your energetic operations. The way as a man you communicate with women, the way as a woman you communicate with men, the way you communicate with people of the same sex as you, all of that stuff is your energetic operation. Why you wear the colors you wear, the clothes you wear, that is all your energetic operation. And your spirituality now is about how much you are aware and cognizant and intentional with your energetic operation. This is what we are here to talk about. Spiritual health is an all-encompassing thing. Yes, once you understand that spirit is energy, then everything is spiritual. You see that? You know, like, there's not, like, you know, like, there's people who be like, yeah, I'm spiritual, but I can get ratchet. I'm spiritual, but I can get gangster. No, all of it is spirituality. People think spirituality is when you sit down on a chair and burn incense and call on your ancestors. No, that's one part of your spirituality is your entire energetic operation. You sitting down and calling on your ancestors is a part of your religion. Yes, meaning your way to realign yourself. Okay? Realign yourself. That's your religion. But your whole life and your reasons for doing what you do is your spirituality. Yeah? That's why people who be like, yeah, I'm real spiritual, but, you know, I'll snap on a nigga. Like, people say dumb shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if that's your stance, then you don't have a good control over your spirituality. Because if someone can trigger you to harm them, then you are not someone who's mastered their spirituality. Does that make sense? Sure, there's a time and place to fight, you know, and that's when you have to defend yourself. But when we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about your command over all your energies, your command over all possibilities of yourself. That's what we're talking about. When we say the word spirituality, we're talking about your energetic operation. And that's what I want to talk about in this day and age. Like, the beautiful time that we're living in, this most abundant and gracious time to living in. I said it in yesterday's live. It is now a sin to live a life that is in opposition to who and what you are. It's a sin. It's an absolute sin. It's a sin to let fear. It's a sin to let fear be your excuse in a day and age where all information is available to you, all paths are available to you. You just got to walk it. It's a sin. It's a sin to live a life that is not in accordance with your highest intentions, aka God's will for you. It's a sin, fam. And so through this conversation called Too High to Go Hell, through this conversation I just want to be able to empower people with a sense of responsibility. Yes, the first key to freedom is responsibility. Responsibility over yourself, your thoughts, your interactions, your intentions, what comes into your life and how you respond to it. Once you take responsibility over that, you will start to see, yes, the power that you actually have to command your life in the direction that you want. Make sense? Also, when you do that, it's much easier to find peace. Life is such a hell when you believe other people are in control of your life. When you believe someone else has the power to dictate what you must do and what you can do and how you can express yourself, life becomes a hell. But when you have the freedom, when you realize you are responsible and you have the power to direct your life in accordance to God's will in your life, you chill, you just, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You're alright, because you know all problems are answered. All problems are taken care of by virtue of you knowing that, or you committing yourself to being the answer to those problems. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? All problems are solved when you commit yourself to being the answer. Yeah. Make sense? All problems are solved when you commit yourself to being the answer. So there's a lot of problems in the world that I recognize that, you know, that really irk me, that really, you know, drive me mad sometimes. But I have to straight up say, look, which one of these problems am I willing to be an answer to? Which one of these issues am I, through my life, solving? Let me just give you a couple of the issues that really, you know, rub me up. Yes, the issues of broken families. I believe there's power in family units. Yes, and particularly black family units that have been messed up through various reasons. That's something I'm passionate about. I want my life to represent the answer to that issue. The issue of miseducation of black children. That's a problem for me, because I know what miseducation done for me. I know what miseducation made me feel about myself as a 12-year-old, as a 9-year-old, as a 13-year-old. I know what miseducation led me to do. So now that's a problem that I am solving through my life. Does that make sense? Absent fathers, fathers that are not present in their children's lives. It's a problem for me. It's a problem. I don't like it. You know? And I don't just leave it down to black men being, you know, lackadaisy and irresponsible. No. It's deeper than that. It's way deeper than that. But that's a problem that I'm here to solve. You see? See now, for example, just going by those examples alone, yeah? Yeah? You don't hear me complain about any of those things, do you? You can rarely even scroll through my Instagram page and hear me talk about any of those things. Why? Because everything I do is an answer to that problem. Does that make sense? I got a whole life to live. I know I'm not gonna solve everything, but everything I do is an answer to all of those problems that I just said. Does that make sense? And so the whole point of what I'm saying is, any problem you see in the world, you have to, if you really truly care about that problem that you see in the world, you have to position your life, your entire energetic operation, your entire spirituality around being the answer to that problem. Make sense? Does that make sense? You have to position yourself in being the answer to that problem. Yeah? And that's it. What else is there? The fact that people are poor and hungry in Africa. The fact that people are poor and hungry anywhere, to be honest. No one should be hungry. When we got trees that produce fruit like mad, no one should be hungry. Just go and pick the damn fruit, bro. The problem is, poverty is not the issue, selfishness is. There's a tree outside here called the lugwad tree. And it has this small fruit. It gives off this small fruit that's like a peach. And the tree grows so much of these small little lugwads. Like so much to the point they just fall on the ground. The monkeys go and pick them. The birds come and pick them. I pick them. People pick them. And there's like, right behind where I live, there's a village. And so sometimes when I walk out of the compound I live in, I see children just out there. And they came up to me one day and asked me if they can go and climb the tree. I took them, you know, and just made them climb the tree. And other people from the community just came and climbed the tree. And they picked all they could. They put it in bags, put it in their hand, ate some. You know what I'm saying? And there's still, I can't count how many fruit is on that tree. The problem in today's world is not poverty. Poverty is not the problem. Selfishness is. Oh, we're raising money to feed poor people. Shut up, bruv. Do you know how much millions have been raised in benefit concerts? Every year people are doing benefit concerts for children in Africa. You know what I'm saying? Live Aid. Jesus Christ. Do you know how much money is raised in these things? If they just took 20% of that money and just planted trees and created permaculture communities just with a fraction of the billions that are raised, you would never need to do a benefit concert again. We do not suffer because of poverty. It's selfishness. It's selfish. People are selfish. And so guess what? Before I go out there and start chastising corporate companies, white people, and all other blah blah blah, government, before I start chastising these people, I have to address selfishness in myself. No, not in myself. Not in me. That's hard, right? We can, oh look, the government, if the government would just give. Oh, if these people would just blah blah. Shut up, man. Whatever you want to change in this world, you have to remove it from yourself. Don't talk about, ladies, don't talk about toxic masculinity if you yourself are exemplifying toxic masculinity. You want a man, you check this. I'm gonna stick it on the sisters. You want a man to stop expressing toxic masculinity, but you yourself come at men with toxic masculinity. A real, watch this, a woman who sits in her divine feminine power can disarm a man who is toxic. Literally. I've seen it happen all the time. Women who are deep in their femininity disarm toxic masculinity like that. Toxic masculinity can't even survive. It's got nothing to feed on. But the problem is, today, a lot of women, right? And I'm not saying women are the problem, but we already know men are the problem, yeah? We already know men are the problem. We already know that part. But I'm saying, the way you combat toxic masculinity is not with more toxic masculinity. Does that make sense? You can't come at a man, you know, like, for example, a huge part of toxic masculinity is two things. The overuse of one's ego. First of all, I want to preface this by saying that toxic masculinity is a result of a patriarchal system that does not look at balance, that does not support or encourage balance. So all of us are victims of a toxic masculine system, both men and women, okay? All of us. it expresses itself slightly different between men and women. Does that make sense? Okay, but all of us are victims of a system that is built on toxic masculinity. No appreciation, no love for the balance, for the equilibrium. So women themselves, again, out of survival, out of socialism, have been trained to be way more masculine than feminine, just like men have. So now the question of the day is combat toxic masculinity. We don't want toxic masculinity, but women have not recognized that toxic masculinity is also within them. You think it's just a man, oh yeah, fuck that, get your ass in the house, bitch. Like that's the one in plain sight. But you don't know these ego wars we have when we're in relationships with each other is a result of toxic masculinity. Does that make sense? Our inability to submit. Ooh, you don't want to hear that word. Our inability to submit ourselves to each other in love is a result of toxic masculinity. Why is it toxic masculinity? Understand that the masculine principles and feminine principles, yes, the masculine principle deals with the outer world, your physical body, both men and women. The flesh, yes, is a masculine principle, okay? It's a masculine principle, okay? When you're dealing with the astral part of yourself, okay, you're dealing with the feminine principle, meaning the place where life is cultivated. That is your feminine principle, both in men and women. When you're out there and you're doing your work, whether you're a man or a woman, yeah, when you're, these are masculine things. Does that make sense? Call it your physical and your spiritual, masculine, feminine. I'm saying that our inability to not only go to the spiritual places when it's convenient, but go to the spiritual places when we are severely challenged in the physical. That inability is a result of toxic masculinity. That inability is in both men and women. Okay? Now, the reason why women, this is why they say women are more emotional. And I support that. Women, you are more emotional. Yes? But today, you will never see that as an offensive thing after I explain. Emotions are your energetic motions. And if you were listening from the beginning of this podcast, your emotions, or should I say your energy, is your spirituality. Okay, let me say that again. Emotion means your energetic motion. Where are you moving your energy? Moving it to fear, moving it to love, moving it to sadness, moving it to peace, okay? That is your emotion, energetic motion, okay? Your spirituality, which is your energetic operation, okay, uses your emotions as tools to express itself. Meaning your will, your highest intention uses your emotions to express and move you from one place in life to another, okay? Women, by virtue of having always to relate with that part of themselves, are more spiritual, therefore more emotional. Femininity as a characteristic always looks at things from a holistic point of view. Oh, I wouldn't do that because, you know, this may cause this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, let me take this because this person might need that. This is a feminine thing. Both men and women have it, but women as a divine feminine. Now let's break down what we mean by divine feminine. Because both men and women have feminine qualities. Women are the divine feminine. Why? Because they are the divine manifestation of femininity. So says their body. Yes? Look at their vaginas. Could be trying to be PC. Their vaginas, their whole exchange, right, of them is going inward. Okay? Their sexual role is to absorb. Does that make sense? Their role, so they absorb things. That is their feminine quality, just like the earth. There's no different. Women and the earth are the same. This is why the treatment of the earth and the treatment of the woman are two of the most important things happening in the world right now. Female empowerment, right? And empowerment for nature. Okay? Women and the earth are the same. They absorb. All life has to spring from that place. Okay? And if the earth is poisoned, anything the earth produces is poisoned. If the woman is poisoned, anything the woman produces is poisoned. Does that make sense? So, this is where we're talking about the responsibility of sisters today to grow in their femininity. Okay? It's not just about what you're wearing. You know, it's not just about how sexually liberated you can be. You know? Cool. Yes? But it's also about your levels of self-awareness. Your ability to exert your power from your divine space, which means your spiritual place. Okay? There's reasons why that many kingdoms always had a queen mother. All these kings and rulers in Africa always had queen mothers. And the queen mother would actually choose the king. From Egypt to Ghana, this happened. Yes? Why? Because of the woman's spiritual significance. We are different, but we're equal. We're not the same. Men and women are not the same. Does that make sense? If we were the same, we would not be able to produce. 2+ batteries cannot give you power. 2- batteries cannot give you power. Plus must meet minus. Positive must meet negative. Proton must meet electron. This is a scientific fact in all parts of life. Why, when we get to this human level where we can, you know, our intelligence fucks us up. Does that make sense? It's a scientific fact. Does that make sense? So women and men must understand themselves as the divine masculine and that relationship is what's going to allow us to come together as a whole. Yeah? Today what's happening is either a woman want to be like a man and a man want to be like a woman. I think it's very important for us to understand each other, but it's also very important for us to appreciate the differences that we have and allow men to do what men need to do and allow women to do what women need to do. Now, that information has been distorted, and so discussions like these are important. We need to come together as men and women, right, and ask each other, what role do we have in each other's lives? What is my responsibility as a man in my relationship with my sisters, with my women? The conversation women need to have is, what is my role in the relationship with my brothers, with my men? What is my role? What am I supposed to be? Regardless of if he's my son, my husband, my grandfather, my father, my neighbor, what is my role in relating with my men? Regardless of if she's my sister, my wife, my mother, my grandmother, my neighbor, what is my role in my relating with my sisters? It should be consistent throughout. This whole thing of men treating women like shit, but then wanting to kill any man that treats his sister like shit, is the most stupidest thing ever. And that's how, as boys, we grow up. Like, we do madness to girls. It's like, yeah, anyone do that to my sister, man, get the shotgun blood. You know what I'm saying? You know? So, I think the study of femininity and the study of masculinity is a very important thing to do. I'm gonna give you a dope book that I read on it. You lot could check out this book. This book is dope. Check out that book, Everything is Sex. Everything is Sex by T.C. Carrier. It breaks down masculine, feminine principles on all levels of life. And as a woman, it helps you understand your divine femininity. And as a man, it helps you understand your divine masculinity and our collective responsibility as divine and masculine entities. I'm not with that bullshit that says that you're supposed to do everything I'm supposed to do, or I'm supposed to act like you as a woman. That's nonsense. That rhetoric is coming from an unnatural person. Fuck you very much. I think we have the power as natural people to say confidently and with love for each other what our roles are. And I feel like we should be deciding that together, once and for all. You know what I'm saying? In this new world, understanding what we want to build for our children, understanding, you know, I said something powerful to men the other day. I said something very powerful to men the other day. Yeah? Men currently feel threatened by women making more money than them. Women are now the ones paying the bills in the house. Yes? Women are now the ones, you know, sorting out what the house needs and stuff like that. And men, as protectors and providers, are feeling now what is their role, since women are covering it. I want to take you guys back to something that an elder here, I can call you elder here, said to me and some men. It was always the woman's duty, yes, to run the home. It was always the woman's duty to run the home. It was always her dominion. It was always her space. The homesteads were run, designed, built by the women. Yes? It was the man's duty. A man's manhood and his masculinity was always expressed outside in the community. That is the man's domain. The man's domain is the community. The man's manhood, where the man organized, where the man enforced law, where the man set his foot down, right, was out there in the community. I'm saying the reason why men have problems with women making money, with women buying things, buying homes and doing all of this stuff, is because men have let go of their responsibility for empowering the community. Men have let go of that responsibility of going out into the community and designing and manufacturing and building what needs to be done. You worried about home, paying bills and rent. Let the woman handle that shit. Go and sort out the schools that your kids need to grow up in. Go and build the flipping temples of worship that your community need to gather in. Go set up the system of government, yes, with other men to determine the posterity, meaning the legacy, meaning the future of your children. So when they leave the home, they meet other children, other parents, other men, other women who have already been orientated in the same spiritual destination as you. That is the man's responsibility. You worried about a freaking rent. You see what I'm saying? That's what men need to do. Go let the woman handle that shit. You know what I'm saying? Let her handle the home. Shine it up real nice. She bought a little lamp. You know what I'm saying? The headdress. You know what I'm saying? Let the women hold that shit down. You go out there and organize your communities with other men. The problem is we go home, then we step out of our home and all we're looking is for cheap thrills. We chilling at pubs. We're drinking alcohol. We're sleeping with other women. Meanwhile, the community is dying around it. We go to the pub, the bub, what the fuck? We go to the pub or the bar, yeah? We sit down, drink, watch news, watch football, and complain that our kids are killing each other. Oh, you know, in my day, the boys used to respect their elders. And you're looking at them like, well, but what the fuck is there to respect? I can't respect you. You're a waste man. You're a waste man. You work for the white man. You don't even get to decide what your children learn in school. Check that. You are a waste man if you do not take responsibility for what your children are learning in school. Yes? Women push out the children. It's their duty, their God-given duty to push out children. That's a woman's duty. It's the man's duty to design the environment for the children to exist in. That is where you have failed. That is where we have failed. In fact, I'm not putting myself in that category. I will not fail. You know what I'm saying? I ain't failed because I ain't got no children. But my children are your children, and I'm doing this to speak to you and your children. And I'm not just talking. Because the next question I would ask myself when I identify a problem is, what are you doing about it, Mikel? And I'm telling you right now, I am doing stuff, and I've been doing stuff for the last 10 years about it. But I'm saying that's where man's responsibility is. Nitafaulu. I will succeed. That's where our focus needs to be. What are we designing for our children? You worried about stacking up money for what? Getting a contract for what? Yes, these things are good. What are they there for? Understand your role. How are we implanting things into our women, right? And not preparing the way for what we're about to bring into the world. You're sick, you're evil, you're a devil. Straight up, you're a devil. You're a devil. You're evil. Heaven is my right, heaven is my responsibility. That is the oath that we must take and say, if I'm gonna lay down with this woman, I better take responsibility for what is about to come out of it, lest it will be my own destruction, lest it will be the thing that leads me to perpetual hell. You understand? Yes? Then when you see, now when you look at life from those kind of things, you start to understand why African men have always had more than one wife. Why they build families. When you understand it from that perspective, you start to understand why this wife, and they build homesteads. This is why. Because they understand their responsibility. I need to build and develop community. I need to be fruitful and create environments of posterity and prosperity. So I have this woman, I have this woman, I have this woman, we all live together and we design the community accordingly. Because it's my role to design the community. But today, we can't even be, look, we got men, no, we can't even be responsible for ourselves, let alone one woman, let alone two women. So that's not a discussion that most of us should be having today. The idea of polygamy and stuff. Because it's absolutely powerful. We ain't ready for that shit. You know what I'm saying? You ain't ready for that shit. Like, you ain't ready. You know what I'm saying? Furthermore, like, as a basic principle, you shouldn't even be polygamous until you own land. Until you own land to house all the women that you're with, you can't even talk about polygamy. You shouldn't even, that word shouldn't even come out your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, what's the time? So let's ask some questions. It's the question time. You're just in time for the question time. It's the question time. The question time. Big up the question time. This is the question time. You're just in time. Hey, for the question time. Is there such a thing as toxic femininity? And what does it look like in both men and women? Yo, Penny's the man, you know. Yeah, pretty. Yo. Alright, so check this out. Let's do this. I love doing this. This is the first thing I always do. And guys, you gotta start when you have questions in your own time. When you have questions, yeah, like in your own time, when you're thinking about things, look up definitions of words. The definition of words will really help you break down what something actually means. Okay? It's like when I broke down the word marriage, it changed my whole perspective. When I looked up the root word of the word marriage, yes, and what it means, both by Oxford definition and then by biblical definition, it changed my whole perspective on what marriage is. Okay? So that aside, let's look at the word toxic, poisonous, yes, relating to or caused by poison, very bad, unpleasant, or harmful, denoting or relating to death which has a high risk of default. Poison for arrows. Okay, cool. So really the word toxic is synonymous with poison. Now, to relate with life, you have to have both masculine and feminine principles. It is what's the word I'm looking for? It's a non-negotiable. You know what I'm saying? It's like I was having this, no, I'm not even gonna go there. No, I'll save that for another part. It's a non-negotiable, yeah? Yes? Masculinity, femininity, plus, minus, proton, electron, blah, blah, blah. Physical, spiritual, it's a non-negotiable duality, okay? In life. So, if you are someone who is deep within their femininity and hasn't developed the appropriate level of masculinity to what's the word I'm looking for? To exercise that your femininity, then it's going to be toxic to you. And when I say toxic, I don't even mean poisonous, I just mean unbalanced. Yes? Okay? It's very important that because femininity in men and femininity in women are going to manifest differently. All of us should start off as feminine. Okay? Even if you look at our physical bodies, yes, it grows from the anatomy of a female one. Okay? All of us are supposed to be cultured in femininity. But what we must understand, this is not femininity. When you think of femininity, you think of this, you think of this, and we gotta redesign. That's not this ain't femininity. You get what I'm saying? This is not femininity. This is being sensual. Okay? Alright, we have to redesign our understanding of femininity. Femininity is our spiritual self, our ability to see beyond this entity. Okay? When someone is being feminine, meditation is a feminine practice. Okay? It's a prayer. Yes? Can be seen as a feminine practice. Okay? Because you are now going into the space that is not related to your physical vessel. That's not necessarily relying on your physical vessel. Does that make sense? All things, including the direction of masculinity, right, comes from the feminine place. That has to be intact. This is why in traditional spaces, children are raised and spend most of the time with their mothers. Regardless of if you're a boy or a girl, when a child is forming, it spends all of its time with the mothers. God science is so powerful. Yes? As long as the woman is still lactating, is the amount of time that a child should spend with their mother. If the breast is still providing milk, and I know it happens up until 7 sometimes, yeah? Yes? That child should be around the woman. Because they are being nurtured in their femininity. Not this toxic one. Toxic femininity is not understanding femininity. So saying a child must wear a dress just to see and express themselves because, you know, he could want to wear a dress. That's not nurturing femininity. Does that make sense? When a child reaches a certain age, yes, like 10 or whatever, then he spends most of the time with the father, who will prepare him for his job in the community, his role in his community, his masculine duties. Does that make sense? He will be given responsibilities to prepare him to be initiated into manhood. Once he is initiated into manhood, he can then go and continue life. Meaning go get a wife, give the family cows or collateral for taking their daughter, yes, then have children with the woman and build his own family. Now that family connects this family and this family. Does that make sense? Men and women must be cultured in femininity because it is your spiritual rooting. Have you noticed women are always the one who go church before men? Growing up, I didn't see none of my uncles go church. It was always the women. The women leaving everywhere. Yeah, I say they taking the children because the women, yes, are the ones who desire that the most. A man is just like, yo, I need to build and create and, you know, instruct and secure, and you know what I'm saying? That's what a man's, he's always thinking about that. But we've pigeonholed that whole thing just to money. Does that make sense? But money is what's got us messed up, because you ain't taking care of your community. You're not a man if you're not out here trying to take care of your community. Okay? So the culturing of a child is the women's sector. And the femininity, the feminine understanding, you know, you lot call it emotional stability or emotional something. Yeah, I'm losing my words today. Yeah? But all of those things happen in your youth. Yes? But the balancing of that comes with your father. What to do with all of that? Your father teaches you how to culture your energy, your energetic operation, where to put it. Your father instructs discipline in your life. Now that you've got all of this, you recognize your emotional capacity. Let me show you what to do with that. Go look after these cows. Go chop down that tree. Go do kung fu. Play football. You know what I'm saying? We're going camping. You're going to learn how to start a fire. Go and dig that hole and cover it up. Build that house, young man, because you're showing your child where to put their energy, how to discipline and hone their energy in a particular direction. Does that make sense? So where things become toxic, bro, on both sides of the scale, is when we are not getting these balances from our mothers and fathers. Does that make sense? Oh, there's another question. Let me try to answer this question before we go. As a woman, how must I motivate the man I'm with without boosting his negative masculinity? I'd have to understand first and foremost what you believe negative masculinity is. This all depends on what you believe negative masculinity is. Because I tell you some things, yeah? Some things that, you know, like a lot of things that masculinity in itself, saying masculinity is like a negative trigger to everyone these days, particularly women. And that's not a good thing. Yes? We have to redesign what you... First of all, you have to understand what a man is and how a man functions, and then you will understand why he does what he does and why he needs to do what he does. Does that make sense? It's like the energy that I had as a black child growing up in a white area, in a white society, they translated my energy as negative. So they said, oh, what am I going to do about Mikel's negative behavior? What am I going to do about Mikel's aggressive behavior? What am I going to do about Mikel's hyperactivity? I'm just black. You know what I'm saying? And your culture doesn't understand mine. Does that make sense? So it's the same thing happening right now. We are letting people who are unnatural, who are not of you, determine what masculinity is and what masculinity isn't, what femininity is and what femininity isn't. The most important thing for you to do right now is for you to understand truly what masculinity is and how that's supposed to complement you as a woman. Women need to get this. Women need to understand this part. Masculinity is there for you. It's actually there for you. Like in terms of men. Divine masculinity is there to empower you. It's there to empower who you are. Divine masculinity should absolutely complement your divine femininity. It should never be in opposition. Never. And so before you start going out there and telling men about their masculine selves, negatively or positively, understand yourself as a human, your masculine, your feminine qualities, and then your divine feminine responsibility. Does that make sense? You have a divine feminine responsibility, like I have a divine masculine responsibility. Let's not look to this world to contextualize that for our own understanding. Does that make sense? You have to be able to understand it yourself from your African point of view, not colonial African point of view, yes, but your essence, your nature. What is nature? And if you don't want to look at it from African point of view, go and study nature and go and look how nature deals with masculinity and femininity and how they work together. Yes? They're always supposed to work together. You should want a masculine man because it absolutely empowers your femininity. Yes? You should want that. You should crave for that. Pray for that. And the last thing I'll say, because I'm getting the countdown, yes? Sisters, with love, I'm going to tell you, some of you are getting in the way of your man being the full man. Yes? Okay? Men are not doing their job. We know that, and I've already said in this live what that needs to be. Men need to shift their focus. But sisters, you need to look at yourselves. And I've only got 50 seconds left, so we can't even go into that one. But tomorrow, we're going to catch up again. Thank you for tuning in. Guys, the Village Link Up is this December. Come meet me in Kenya. We're going to have 7 days of all kind of interactions, yeah? Peace in, love out. I'm going to catch you tomorrow. If you want one-to-one spiritual health coaching, hit me up in my DM. Bless up.